Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Fire Force Chapter 280. When we last left our heroes, Assault had showed up to the remainder of Company 8, sans Shinra and Arthur, and everyone, including Juggernaut, tried to just get a hit on the man, and all of them failed. Though Juggernaut finally succeeded in confessing to Tamaki, but Assault did not take particularly kindly to that, as he thought that showing love on the battlefield was a sign of weakness, and so he beat Juggernaut very easily, leaving Tamaki alone. She tried to Lucky Lecher lure him, and that just did not work at all. And apparently, my interpretation of that last scene is that the Assault doppelgangers' intense sex hatred is now spreading over into the general populace, and so everyone is now kind of shaming Tamaki for her Lucky Lecher lore, and that's kind of where we left off. Also, my voice sounds echoey. It's because I moved into a new apartment, and it's still kind of barren at the moment, but that's also why I've been gone the past few days. But yeah, anyway, all that being said, let's jump right on into Chapter 280, Lucky Lechered. And so our picture here is of Tamaki with much more genuine catness than her normal vibe. She has real paws on her hands and feet. She's in a bikini because of course she is, or her underwear, one of the other cat ears, the tail. Nekomata style, Lucky Lecher form. Chapter 280, Lucky Lechered. I expressed some theories about what that title might mean, but as someone pointed out in the comments last week, maybe I should not be betting based on chapter titles. Anyway, we open where we left off, with Tamaki still with her jacket over her head. We get a boob shot to open the chapter. Her Lucky Lecher lore receives nothing but cold criticism. And the townspeople are all just kind of watching her, not even really panicking about the cataclysm anymore, which makes me think they're being heavily influenced by Adola, but again, that's just kind of my bet. What is with that girl? Doesn't she have any shame? You know, when you really look at her, she's not even that cute. She's just being attacked from all sides. And Assault just takes that as evidence of his worldview. The public has spoken. This world has no need for lechers. The really weird thing about that, though, is that Tamaki is not the lecher here, right? Lucky Lecher lore is that she's lucky to be around if you are a lecher, is the idea of that phrase, I think. And so Assault is attacking Tamaki for something that's not really her fault. And a part of me wants to look at that as a meta commentary on slut-shaming. I don't think Okubo is going that deep, but you can definitely look at it, and maybe that will kind of be how the chapter explores that line there. I don't know, we'll see. And we cut to Victor, who, as I've kind of been noting over the past several months, has taken on this very kind of meta characterization as he's thinking, Lucky Lecher, what could it mean? And Vulcan gets on to him, Lecher, hey, forget about that, and come up with a way to win. And Victor thinks for a sec, and then suddenly comes to a realization. And he says, she's undoubtedly a member of the establishment, which means she exists to fill some role in this world. I've assumed up until now that Tamaki was simply a klutz, but hold up. Is Victor about to say that Tamaki is the personification of the Fanservice character? Is that where we're going with this? But we don't get to finish that thought as we come back to Assault. Your lore won't work on me, which means you don't stand a chance. And Tamaki has put her coat back on and is readying an actual attack. Shut up! And she tries to throw her fire at him, and he just deflects it, out of sight. It's hopeless. And then he just kicks her right in the gut. We see her kind of keeled over, breathing heavy. Gah, gah. I'll give you credit for being able to take a punch. However, your lewdness is worthless. Again, she's not the lewd one. And Victor's sort of aside over on page 5 seems to imply that what the chapter is going for is more of, in current Fire Force's general sort of meta exploration. Sorry, I forgot my water before I started this chapter, so my voice is getting tired already. Anyway, it sort of feels like it's going in that meta direction that a lot of the series has been going so far, but then all of Assault's lines, either intentionally or not, seem to sort of be shaming Tamaki for the horniness of others. And when Tamaki back in the last chapter was stripping to distract Assault, you could maybe argue that. But now she's just kind of here. She's just kind of being beat up and being called lewd, but she's not lewd. That's never really been a personality trait for her. I don't know. I'm really curious if Okubo is going somewhere with this. And then Tamaki just happens to land in a typical Tamaki pose with her coat falling down, exposing her ass and her underwear. And now you try to attack with your butt? That won't work. And the crowd just kind of attacks her. Shameless. Is that all she's good for? She's an embarrassment of a woman. So it's been a while since I've looked at Tamaki's backstory, which was, I don't even remember when it was. I think it was maybe during the Orochi fight. But it wasn't a big part of that she was shamed by other students for, apparently the same kinds of things that Assault is getting into here, that it's, her fault that she keeps stripping. Which, again, if Okubo wants it to be, it could be a very neat little exploration of slut-shaming. I don't know. I'm really curious if that's where he's going with this. I wouldn't be shocked if it wasn't, but it kind of feels like he's going that way right now. Either way, Assault just throws a missile at Tamaki's head. But she jumps out of the way, actually. I kind of missed that. But we see she's on her feet, ready to go. And Assault presses. Actually, hold on. Here's a bit of a continuity blip, maybe. If you look at page 8... it looks like, because we can see a little bit of her legs. The focus on her, on the top of page 8, is on her ass and her lower back. But you can also see her legs. And they seem bare, the top part of her legs. But it looks like her leggings on page 9 at least go up to where the bottom of her jacket is. So is she actually, dematerializing her leggings for these Lucky Lecher lore bits? In any other series, I'd just be that's a continuity blip. But given how much has gone into the, sort of meta exploration of the lewdness this chapter, even we get a better look at the top of page 9, where we can see up her coat, and her leggings go all the way to her waist, or at least to her underwear, as far as we can tell. I really hate how seriously I'm talking about Tamaki's underwear, by the way. That just kind of hit me there for a second. I'm that's a little uncomfortable. But anyway, it's an interesting thing that might just be a continuity blip, or it might be something more, which is kind of what I'm looking at. A running theme in this chapter, I think, is this intentional or is it more? Or is it intentional or is it an accident? Anyway, you're pretty fast, but I've already got you. And Assault goes for another attack that rips right through Tamaki, blowing up her coat to just showing her underboobs. Or maybe it only hits her in the back. There's this little sort of curved line there that could just be the explosion of her clothing, or it might be the missile peeking through her. It could be a Juggernaut thing, if that is the missile. But on second thought, I don't quite think it is. Either way, she's clearly beat up, and we see this sort of fabric floating in the wind, and she falls to the ground. Assault looms over her. I'm putting an end to your exhibitionism. And the crowd is still just attacking Tamaki. This is increasingly feeling given that none of this is her fault, objectively she's being beat up by Assault, but the crowd is still attacking Tamaki, maybe this is an intentional exploration of slut-shaming. I'm not, that's, if you told me 20 minutes ago this chapter would be a subtle, or not subtle, but a metaphorical exploration of slut-shaming, I would not have believed you, but now I can really see it. Anyway, the crowd is still kind of attacking Tamaki. Have a little decency. What a vulgar woman. And this woman is holding back her son and tells him, Tatsuto, don't look. But Tatsuto is just staring eyes wide. He's a little young to say awakening to his sexuality. But given this chapter's sort of view on what's it called? On exploring her as both the fan service character and looking at slut-shaming, it's something to think about. Anyway, we come back to Tamaki, who coughs. And Assault just attacks her, just verbally attacks her. Listen well, watch closely. This is the end of the lecher. and the crowd is still attacking her. Does she know how to do anything but flaunt her body? She's a good for nothing. She has some gall serving as a fire soldier. How could a fire soldier sprawl out like that? You don't think you're going to find a man like that, do you? Again, none of this is her fault, so it feels a little intentional. Straighten yourself out. Fight like you're supposed to. You're an embarrassment of a woman. An embarrassment. And Vulcan finally calls them out. Just to, not like publicly, but just to Victor. Why are they like that? She's fighting for them. And Victor tells them after a sec, the background characters are getting carried away. Now that it's started, it won't stop. And Assault readies what looks like his final attack. This whole flaming tornado, missiles are launched into it. Prepare yourself, Tamaki Kotatsu. I'll kill you and end your lecherous existence. And then someone yells out, the world needs sex appeal. Okay, I'm not quite sure. This is not quite where I was thinking it was going. But that kind of stops Assault. And, Assault looks at him and says, that voice, my voice. The real Assault shows up. So you've come, the sex-crazed loser. Oh, I'm really, really hoping this is not just Assault comes in and saves the day for Tamaki, and Tamaki is once again saved by a man. I would not be down for that. I was okay with it during the Orochi fight because Juggernaut was so fucking cool in that fight, but I don't want that to happen with Assault of all people. Anyway, Assault tells him, you're not wrong. I learned what sexiness is. I gave into it. And we see him, and he's definitely got a new vibe. You can only see him from the back. He's like completely missing his sleeves, at least up to here. And this, I think what might be the remainder of his sleeves like drip down, instead of being up here, are now down below his fingertips, I think. I don't know. It's a look. But the doppelganger looks at him, then why are you here? And yeah, we do see him. I actually think that might be tied in with, right, because we kind of see the same thing going on with Assault. He has those 3 white strips, or the doppelganger, he has the 3 white strips on his arms. And just the real Assault is just a lot longer for them. I don't know. I'm still not a big fan of Assault being the one to save the day here. And Tamaki looks up. Is that the real Assault? And the doppelganger counters, he could never be the real one. Excuse me. He was corrupted by sex, unable to fight it, corrupted by it. He said the same thing twice. I'm curious if that was a translation, if that was the same phrase in the original, or just 2 different phrases translated the same way. I don't know. He's a pathetic, sex-crazed loser. And he just tells the real one, leave. And then we see Tamaki, and we get a close-up of that underboob, which sort of sets the real Assault off. And real Assault is distracted for a sec, and is then hit by the doppelganger. It's your worldly desires that make it sexy. And the doppelganger, or not the doppelganger, the real Assault is sent flying. You're full of openings. You don't stand a chance. Don't you see? All you've accomplished by shaming here was all you've accomplished by coming here was shaming yourself. And the same mom from earlier then comments, that woman should just find an alley to die in. There are children watching. Again, you know, we have this sort of, these last few pages is sort of thrown in, Tamaki gets saved by the real Assault. But given how poorly the real Assault is doing, and that we're now kind of circling back to that slut-shaming theme from earlier, where it's not Tamaki's fault in any way, shape, or form, maybe we are still gonna loop back to it. Maybe the real Assault will fail. I don't know. But Victor notices the mom. Wait, aren't you one of Haijima's head researchers? Yoshida-san, right? And Yoshida notices him. Oh, Lit, is that woman one of the soldiers in your company? What's with her? And then, so I'm curious if now that Yoshida has a name, what if she sort of, by being acknowledged by by a member of the establishment, is she moved into, maybe not straight up the establishment, but is no longer just a background character? She has a name now. I don't know. We have this line, I feel bad for her, it's that guy's fault. And I'm not quite sure if that's Yoshida, and no one else is really speaking in the same way. The continuing lines of that panel are gross. How do you even raise someone to be so crude? Even as a guy, I can't stand women like that. So they're still really focusing on Tamaki there. But Yoshida, if that is Yoshida in the first line, Given that I don't think it'd be Victor, as Victor knows Assault's name. Yoshida is kind of the only person here whose name we know who would not know Assault's name. And so I'm curious if just Victor just acknowledging her, just recognizing her, has shifted her from background character into something a little bit more. I don't know. All things to think about. Anyway, Assault looks down, the doppelganger, I should say. The doppelganger looks down at Tamaki. Your sex appeal is pitiful. Allow me to censor you. And Vulcan tries to defend Yoshida. Tamaki's fighting her hardest. It's just the lucky lecher thing. And Yoshida snaps at Vulcan. Are you an idiot? There's no such thing as a lucky lecher lore. She's just pulled the wool over your eyes. Okay, so again, who's that line at the top of the page? Who says that? Because clearly not Yoshida. Yoshida is just as anti-Tamaki as the rest of them. And also, is Yoshida saying that Tamaki has been doing all of this on purpose? I'm really not sure how I like that. But Victor just thinks and comes to a realization. I see. So Tamaki really is. And then they go on. We can't even air this. Not on a government broadcast. There's another question, tying in with the meta thing. Now that this series has an anime, if the anime ever adapts the rest of the manga, is that sort of a preemptive bit of meta narrative? I don't know. Fire Force, even when it's bothering me, is just so interesting. Anyway, they continue. An embarrassment of a woman. An embarrassment! And then Tamaki just gets up with determination in her eyes and grins. I'm sick of your whining. If you hate skin that much, I've got something to show you. Who cares what society says? This is who I am. I'll save the world with the power of sex appeal. To be continued, chapter 281, The Guru of Lechery. Okay, so I feel like this is one of those chapters that I need to see how it all wraps up before I kind of judge it. Because there are multiple ways this chapter can end, this storyline can end, right? It could end like a kind of in theorizing, right? That the point is that Tamaki is not at fault here. You know, she's being attacked. She's the one who's sort of being forced into this for the most part, with beyond the sort of jacket removal of last chapter. Everything that happens is Assault's fault. He attacks her, he tears off her clothes, he knocks her out with a missile, and she just kind of happens to land with her ass out because of Assault's attack. All of that is on Assault's hands. And so maybe it is sort of a commentary on how everyone is attacking Tamaki, the woman, when it's really Assault, the man's fault for sort of forcing her into those positions from a real world standpoint, framing her in the kind of poses that Okubo frames her in. In which case it's sort of a self attack as Okubo is the one putting her in those poses. But then we have everything after the real Assault shows up. The world needs sex appeal. We see what's possible at the end is Tamaki sort of accepting her Lucky Lecher lore and going to get used to her advantage, maybe is what's going on in that scene. Again, like I said before, I can't really comment on, I can't give a definitive comment on it until I've seen how this all wraps up next week. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot here, there's also a bit with Victor kind of discussing what the establishment is. You know, that what he says on page 5 about, I've assumed up until now, or she's a member of the establishment, which means she exists to fill some role in this world. And that, I think, is going to be very important very soon. I don't know exactly what that's going to lead into. And Victor kind of realized that he was right with what Yoshida says about, are you an idiot? There's no such thing as a Lucky Lecher lore. She's kind of been playing with you, which could fit, in a real world situation. There's no such thing as a Lucky Lecher lore, but in a story there can be. And as Fire Force is very interested in stressing that it is in fact a story, maybe that's where it's going. Again, all of this is just maybe. There's a lot of maybe. I kind of need to see the next chapter. I don't know. I guess an unadulterated positive here is that it looks like Tamaki will be the one to finish this fight off. I'm still hoping it's not just she strips down so far that even Doppel Assault is defeated by her horniness. that would kind of be the lamest ending to me. But it's not quite outside the world of possibility, given how this chapter is. We'll see. We will see next week or very soon, given how late this video is up. But yeah, that's all I have to say for this chapter. Hope you'll enjoy the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, do whatever makes you happy, And remember, your life is your own, okay? Bye!